Okay, so on an impact-based forecast, these are the things that you would see: the weather forecast risk matrix, the nowcasting risk, and then the weather icons. These are the things that will help you to interpret the weather information that is coming. So for starting, you can see that there are four colors on the matrix. So there's green, there's yellow, there's orange, and then there's red. Each color has its own risk. So like I said earlier, if you have green, then it means there's a low risk area. If you have yellow, it means we are creating an awareness over your area. Once you're seeing orange, then you would have to be prepared for the event. If you see red, you'd have to take an action for your area. But once the place is not shaded, then it means there's no risk at all for your area. So we're also seeing some alphabets written within the risk matrix. The alphabets are just telling you the impact and then the likelihood over your area. So if we shade the area, because some of the colors are the same, A, B, and D all have the same color. So we are trying to use the alphabets to distinguish between the three, which probably they all have a low risk, but then some will be higher than the other. G, E, and C are all yellow, but they would have different interpretation. So we want to use the alphabets to also differentiate them. And then H and F, they are all orange, but then they will have different interpretation. So that's what the alphabet is doing. So if we pick A, for instance, it is green. It means the risk over the area is low. Once it's green, there's a low risk there. But if you move towards the likelihood section, you see a low likelihood there. So it means if your area is shaded green and the test there is A, the likelihood of the weather happening there is low. If you move towards the impact side, it's also low. So you have a low possibility of a low impact weather. So in this instance, there will probably be some slight rain or some drizzle, or at worst moderate rainfall, but the rainfall will have so much impact on the area. And the chance that this event will occur is low. If you move to D, D is also a low impact, but then the probability is moderate. So between 40 to 60% chance. So if an area is...
Joshua, a bit of, can you take this over again, the table, and then why you decided? You see, you have low area which is less than 40% chances of the rain, and then you have A, B, C, D, and then within the A, B, C, D, you are having colors to be able to interpret it. I'm trying so that I want you to make it more understandable to all those, participating.
Sure.
Why do we have all of these alphabets on the same lane with the same chances of rainfall, or maybe a disaster or something, but you have them, being explained, colors being explained in a different way too?
All right. So what I'm saying basically is that once you see any area shaded green, the first thing that comes to mind is the risk. So green means there's a low risk over your area. If you see an area shaded yellow, the risk is higher than the green, but then we want to create an awareness over that area. So even though there's a possibility of you having a medium impact risk or whatever, the chances of these happening are a bit lower. And so we just want to create the awareness. But once you're seeing orange, then the chance is higher, and then the impact will also be either moderate or high. So we would recommend that you are prepared for that weather event. And then if you see red, you would have to take action. So these are the four main risks that we have: the low risk, the be aware, be prepared, and then take action. But if you move to the weather risk, forecasting risk matrix, this one, there are three areas shaded green. They all mean low risk. But what's the difference between all these three? So that is what we are trying to use the alphabets to distinguish. If you move to the yellow, there are three places all shaded yellow with different alphabets. So the alphabets are trying to distinguish between them. The orange too, same. There are two areas shaded as orange, but they all have different interpretation, even though the risk there or the action that we are recommending is that you be prepared for those areas, but then they all have different interpretation. So we are using the alphabets to try and distinguish even within the same risk over an area. So even though we are expecting low risk over your area, but then the alphabets will try and distinguish between them. So an area shaded D will be different from an area shaded A. So that's what I'm trying to explain, that if you have A in your area, it is green. So by default, the risk there is low. That is the first thing. But what is the probability that you have this low risk over your area? So then you move to the risk matrix. To your left, that is the likelihood, this one. So first, your left means there's a low likelihood, less than 40% chance. So less than 4 out of 10 chance of that event occurring. If you move towards the south, you get low impact. So all these areas are telling you the impact, and then this one is also telling you the likelihood. So if you move towards your left, that is low. If you move towards the south, that is also low. So it means if an area is shaded A, there's a low probability of a low impact weather happening there. So if I give you this forecast that there's a low probability of a low impact weather shaded A, you'll not be too worried, because the event that is going to occur will not really have any risk on your any major risk on activities in the area. And even if it occurs, the chance of it occurring is quite low, less than 40%. And so you'll not be too worried about this. But if the same place was to be shaded, say D, D corresponds to a medium impact. So there's a 40 to 60% chance of that event happening. The risk is still, the impact is still low because to the south is still low. But then the chance of an area with D having the weather is higher than that of an area shaded A. So if, let's say, Kumasi is shaded A and Western region is shaded D, people in Western region will be more expectant of the low impact weather than people who are in the Ashanti region, because the chance of A occurring is less than 40%, but the chance of D occurring is between 40 and 60%. So an area shaded D has a higher probability of the event occurring. But when the event occurs, the impact the event will make on the area is low. And so even though it's shaded D, it has a high impact or medium impact. The chance is low over your area. And so you'll not be too worried, but you will be more expectant of the weather than an area shaded A. In the same vein, if someone has an area shaded G, the impact there is still low, but the chance is high. And so areas with G will have a higher likelihood of the event happening than D and A. So someone who has his area shaded G will be expecting the weather more than someone who has the area shaded D, who will also have a higher probability than someone shaded A. So that's for low impact. If we move to the medium impact, this is B towards the south, that is medium. So the impact here is medium, but the chance of this occurring is low. So the weather may not occur because there's a just 4 out of 10 chance of that weather occurring. But if this weather occurs, the impact it will have on the area is medium. And like I said earlier, medium impact means that there will be some minor damage and then some disruptions as well. And so even though it can cause some disruptions and can have some minor damages, but the chance of this occurring is low. So that's B. But once you see E, E also means there's a medium likelihood of the event occurring, but a medium impact weather. But towards your left, that is medium likelihood. So an area shaded E will have a medium probability and a medium impact. So even though E and B will all have the same impact, but the chance of E occurring is higher than B. And so an area shaded E will be more concerned than an area shaded B. Same for H. H will have a moderate impact if it occurs, but the chance of H occurring is high. So even though H, E, and B will all have the same impact, H will have a higher chance of occurring than E, and E will also have a higher chance of occurring than B. So it is arranged in that order. The medium impact is H, E, B, but the likelihood is higher for H, which is also higher for H, and then E is also higher than B. So as you are moving towards the south, the likelihood will be reducing. So that's for the medium impact. And then the high impact weather, C, it is shaded orange. So we are creating an awareness. The impact it will have is high. So it means there will be a risk to life and property if the event occurs. We can have some damages occurring if the event occurs. But then the chance of this occurring is low. So we are reducing the risk away. That's why we gave it the orange color, because the probability of that event occurring is not so high. So even though if it occurs, it can have some disruptions and damages, but the likelihood that it will occur is low. And so if you have C, you are just going to be aware of such events likely to occur. But once this C is changed to F, the color changes to orange. Then orange means you have to be prepared. Because if you move towards the likelihood side, you see medium likelihood, 40 to 60% chance of the event happening. If you move towards the impact side, you see a high impact. So there's a medium chance of a high impact weather occurring over the area shaded F. So if you are seeing an area shaded F, there's about 40 to 60% chance that you can have some weather which will cause damages, cause a risk to life and property, and then cause some major disruptions to activities within the area. So once you are seeing F, you are going to be prepared. Even though H and F are all shaded orange, like I said earlier, someone who has his area shaded F will be more worried, because if that event occurs, the impact it will have on the area will be higher than H. Even though H has a higher likelihood of occurring, if it occurs, the impact will be medium. So you will not be too worried like someone who has a high impact. So H and F all means you should be prepared for an activity or an event. But F, the event for F will have a higher consequence on the area than H. So you'll be more prepared for F than you will be for H, even though you will still be prepared for both cases. But once you're seeing I is the worst case that we expect. There's a high possibility of a high impact weather. So if we are shading your area with I, then it means there's a possibility of flooding in your area. There's a possibility of maybe some strong winds in your area, which is possible to cause some damages to maybe trees around or even your building as a whole. And so I will be more like a warning to you. Once you're seeing I, you are taking action immediately. You don't have to compromise on that information. You don't want to take action immediately. And these are the weather icons that we put on the template. So if we're expecting rain, you see this there. If we're expecting windy conditions, we see this there. In the dry season, when we're expecting Harmattan, dusty conditions, you see this icon. And then when we're expecting some hail as well, you see this. I'm sure most of you probably know hail, and then rain, windy, and then dusty conditions. So basically, hail and rain are the same. They are all precipitation, clouds producing some rainfall, but the rains may not be able to melt before they get to the surface. And so it will come as a solid. That is the difference between rain and then hail. Hail will come as solid, but rain will come as a liquid. That's the only difference. But the processes leading to the formation of the two are all the same. All right, so these are the samples of forecast that we issue. So this is a 24-hour forecast. The first one is a 24-hour forecast. This is an outlook. So we issue 3 forecasts, 24-hour forecasts a day: morning, afternoon, and then evening. Each one of them will cover the next 24 hours. So the afternoon will just be an update on the morning forecast, and then the evening forecast will be an update on the afternoon forecast, taking you for the next 24 hours. We will shade the areas where we are expecting the weather to occur. So for the morning on this day, we're expecting a low risk because it's shaded D. So there's a low risk over the area. But then there's the icon there is rain. So it means we're expecting rain over that area. And the letter there is D. So we move straight to the matrix. D means there's a medium likelihood of a medium impact weather occurring over the area. So if you are living in this area, you'd expect a low impact weather, which will cause just some minor disruptions, no damages at all. But then the likelihood of it occurring is medium. So you'll not be too worried if you live around this area. Someone around this area in the afternoon should expect low risk, still green. But then this is shaded B. B means there's a very low probability of the event occurring. But if it occurs, it will have a medium impact on the area. So that's the only difference. In the evening, areas in the north will also expect a low risk, shaded as B, and the weather for all these areas are all rain. For the outlook, we give you, for Mondays, we give you a weekly outlook. So it will capture what's expected in 24 hours. 24 hours, the forecast actually goes out around 4 or 5 p.m. So 24 hours means the night on Monday and then the whole of Tuesday. And then we use midweek to capture Wednesday and Thursday. And then the weekend will capture Friday to Sunday. So that's what we do with the weekly outlook. So in 24 hours, what we were expecting was that areas in northern Ghana, they are all shaded E. So there's a medium likelihood of a medium impact weather happening in the northern portions. If you move towards southern Ghana, we're expecting a low risk, shaded as D. So there's a medium probability of a low risk. So just at a glance, you would know that areas where there should be a concern will be areas in the northern parts of the country. It may rain in the southern parts, but the impact it will have on the area is low. So you'll not be too worried. But in the north, we're expecting a medium impact there. And so people living there would want to be aware of the information. In midweek, we're expecting the whole country to have a low risk, and they are all shaded B. So B means there's a low probability of a medium impact weather happening. So the likelihood of us getting this activity over midweek is low, but if it occurs, the impact it will have on almost the entire country will be medium. But for the weekend, you could see that from the northern parts all the way to areas slightly north of the coastline are all shaded yellow. So we are creating an awareness for these people that there's a possibility of rainfall happening over your area. And when this rainfall occurs, it's E. So it will have a medium impact on activities within the area or the location. So that's what we try to do with the outlooks for the week. And then this is also updated on Wednesday. We give you the midweek outlook, which will cover the night on Wednesday and then Thursday. And then we come up with, and then Friday as well. So the night on Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. And on Friday, we give you the outlook for the weekend. So we'll give you what's expected in the night on Friday, the outlook for Saturday, and then Sunday. We try to also break the forecast down, below. So you can see that here, we have written them in plain text here. So what's expected there will actually be known. We're just expecting some slight rain for coastal Ghana. But if you move towards the north, isolated to scattered thunderstorms or rainfall. So this will help you to appreciate the information on the impact-based forecast. And then the last one we do is weather warning. Like I was saying earlier, there are lots of changes that happen within the atmosphere in a short period of time. So you could have a forecast going out now that there's low probability of rainfall within the whole country. But in the next 2 hours, you can have a lot of changes happening that will cause the probabilities to increase. And so in that case, if you are seeing these changes, then you warn the people of the changes that you're seeing. So we have weather warnings. And the weather warning is also using the same format like the 24-hour and then the midweek outlook. So you can see the areas shaded with different colors. Upper East, Northeast are all shaded orange. So areas within these regions will be worried that there's a very high probability of medium impact weather occurring there. If we move towards the southwestern part, around the Bono, Ahafo, Western North, Western Central regions, they're also shaded as H. So H means there's a high probability of a medium impact weather. So if you just take this map, areas where you'll be very concerned about will be the southwestern parts and the northeastern parts, because they have the worst case, the highest probability and then the highest impact based on the map here. From there, the next area you'll be worried about will be the Greater Accra, the Volta Eastern, towards OT, and then into the Upper West and Savannah regions. They are all shaded yellow. So we are creating an awareness for the people living in this area that there's a high medium probability. E means medium probability of a medium impact weather occurring there. And the weather we're expecting is rain and then strong winds. So you can see winds within. So if you're expecting just windy conditions, we'll have just the wind there. If we're expecting both windy and rainfall conditions, we have both of them there. If it's just the rain, you just have the rain there. So around the Upper West, we're just expecting rain without the windy conditions. But if you move towards the Savannah and Northern regions, we're expecting windy conditions and rain as well. So you could have what's expected over your area based on this. And then we try to use this test here to explain or break the whole warning down. This is just giving you an outlook, an idea of what's expected over each area. But this is telling you the specific time when we're expecting the rainfall to occur over each area. So the whole country is shaded from this map. The whole country is shaded. But what time will the rain start in the eastern region? What time will it start in the western region? What time will it start in the Greater Accra? So that is what this is doing. You can see T here, 1400 for all of them. So this is the time we expect the event to start. So if you pick OT and Volta regions, we expect the event to start between 1530 and 1900. So if you are living in these areas, if you are doing anything by 1530, you should know that there's a possibility of you getting rainfall over your area. But in the first 1 hour, so this is 1400 hours. So in the first 1 hour means from 1400 to 1500, that's 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. We're expecting G over that area. So G means there's high possibility of a low risk or low impact weather occurring. So the impact will start as low. But in 2 hours time, the impact will increase to medium, because H means there's a medium impact and then there's a high possibility. So if you live in the OT and Volta regions, between 2 and 3 p.m., you would want to we are just going to create an awareness in your area. So even though you may not be able to get home in the next 1 hour, but this is telling you that if you're not able to get home in that time, it's not really a problem, because the rain is just going to start as a low risk one. So even if you are walking through them, you will not really have so much problem. But in the next 2 hours, the risk will increase. And so if you want to take any action, you would want to take it before the 2 hours actually starts. And in 3 hours time, the impact will now is still medium, but the likelihood then reduces to medium. So from H to E, there's a reduction. So you'd have that reduction until you get to the outlook. The outlook means anything happening after 3 hours. So that is D. That means there's a low risk there. So it is starting as a low risk, increases to a medium risk, and then start dropping to a low risk, medium and then low risk over the area. So you can know how the storm will actually behave over those regions. If you move to Greater Accra region, Eastern region, we're expecting the storm between 1600 and 1930. But in the first 1 hour, that is from 14 to 1500, we're expecting a low risk. In the first 2 hours, we're still expecting a low risk. But in 3 hours' time, we would expect that the risk will now increase to medium. So if you live in Greater Accra, then you want to be so much concerned about what is going to happen 3 hours from the time the forecast was actually sent. So that's for Greater Accra. For people in the OT region, they'll be concerned for what is happening in 2 hours' time. But for Greater Accra, the storm will take some time before it gets there, so 3 hours. If you move to the upper east, northeast, and northern regions, the storm is expected between 1600 and 2000 UTC. But in the first 1 hour, we left the place blank. It means there's no risk at all for the area. So if the forecast was sent to you at 1400, that was when the forecast was sent. We are telling you that from 14 to 1500, within the first 1 hour, the storm will not reach the upper east, northeast, and northern regions. In the next 2 hours, so by 1600, they will start getting some low risk there. In 3 hours' time, they will start getting some medium risk there. But after 3 hours, that is when we expect the storm to actually be there and producing some medium impact rainfall, and the probability will also be high around that time. So for people living in these regions, they'll be more concerned about what will happen in 3 to 4 or 5 hours' time. For the Ashanti, Ahafo, Western, within the first 2 hours, so 1 hour, 2 hours, there's nothing there. So it means if you get the warning, you can go about your activities because the rain will actually start in 3 hours' time. So that means 14 plus 3, 1700. So if you get a warning at 2 p.m., it means the rain will start over your area around 5 p.m. So you can do your activities, or you have time to actually prepare and then get into a safe place or anything like that. But after 3 hours, that is when we're expecting the likelihood to be high. So this is breaking the whole warning down and making you know when it will be higher, when the intensity will be lower, when the impact will also increase and all that. So that is what we try to do with the weather warning. So this is basically all that the impact-based forecast does. Gives you the probability of the event occurring, and then also tells you what action you should take based on the impact that we are expecting over your area. All right, thank you. So, Nuruddin, that's all. If there's any question.
Joshua, can you go back a bit to the impact, the weather warning?
All right.
Yes, so there is this question that many people used to ask me about the coordinated universal time or universal time coordinated.
Okay.
Why do you use that? I mean, instead of the GMT, so that it will be understood by everyone.
Okay, that's good.
I mean, the UTC. Yeah.
Sorry.
The UTC, the universal time coordinated.
Yes. Well, for us in Ghana, UTC and GMT are all the same. And so if you see UTC, it's the same as GMT. But the only reason why we stick to UTC is because the Met institution is an international one. Weather affecting us affects other places on the continent. The same way weather affecting other areas will also come and affect us. So all the things we do are standardized. So they have to follow a specific standard. So for somebody in Nigeria, somebody in Togo, Benin, or wherever in the world, to have the same coordinate, like time coordinate, like we will also have, we use UTC everywhere for meteorological reports, so that your weather will not create any, I don't know how I should put it, but anybody who takes your weather will know that this is what time you're expecting the weather to occur over the area. So we don't want to use local times to cause any differences in the information that is sent out there. That's the only explanation to why we use UTC. But it's the same like GMT for us in Ghana. Yeah.
All right. So I think we are almost done. So anybody who has question to ask can really ask. But with some of us who are journalists, this is very important to us, especially when you are reporting on a disaster or storm in areas that you live. Sometimes it's important to make references to some of these forecasts to be able to give more in-depth analysis to your story. And so if we understand this, is gonna help us. And we all know that everything now is now linked to climate change. You cannot do a proper health story or sanitation story without having some amount of climate science in it. And so if we understand how these things are happening, but we would be able to report. Right. So Joshua, I think that we will need to look at another time to look at climate science itself. Some people have raised concerns about the subject itself, and the understanding is quite difficult for guys who contacted me. Okay. So if you have any question, you can ask, and we end the training trial.
Good morning.
It's a good morning.
Yeah, I'm Selu from Adria.
Okay.
Yeah, please, I want to know, given the updates, the impact-based updates.
Yeah.
Tuesday, for instance, an update came, and the middle sector was shaded yellow with H, which means there was a high probability of rainfall.
Yellow with H.
Yes, yellow with H.
Yellow with H.
Yes.
Was it yellow with H? Check again.
Yes.
Is that which day was it?
Not, I think between Tuesday and Wednesday. Yeah, I think that was, Tuesday or so.
Okay.
But do we have that? Do we have something like that? Yellow with H?
No, it was probably maybe a mistake or something. But
not yellow, but orange. Sorry.
Okay.
Orange. Orange. But then after some few hours, the rainfall dissipated. The weather was cloudy, but the rainfall dissipated, and we couldn't have rain as predicted. And I wanted to know if, hello, are you with me, please?
Yes, I'm listening.
I wanted to know what is the cause of that?
Okay. So the impact base basically is giving you an idea what's expected over your area. So if the whole middle sector is shaded yellow or orange, you see the corresponding probability and the impacts of the event happening over your area. And so you either be prepared or you are just told to be aware of an event happening over your area. But like I said earlier, there are a lot of changes that occur within the day. So as at the time the forecast was sent, the forecaster was seeing a high probability of rainfall occurring over your area. But as time goes on, you could see this, you can have these probabilities reducing or increasing. So that could be the reason why, even though rain was expected over your area, you didn't get it. That is one thing. Or you can have the rain fall for some areas outside your locality, even though you are still shaded within the same risk as them, but the rain could fall for other areas and not fall for your area because of local conditions over the area. When a rainstorm or a cloud is approaching your area, there are factors of the area that affect the cloud's development. So we need a whole lot of weather elements combining to enable cloud formation and rainfall. So if these conditions are not too good to favor rainfall, areas that are good to favor rainfall attract the rainstorm that is approaching. So there are a whole lot of times that you could see a rainstorm approaching from, let's say, Togo, Benin there, but then they end up raining heavily in the eastern Volta regions, and then for Greater Accra, you hardly get the rainfall because the conditions in the eastern and Volta regions are better than areas in the Greater Accra region. The Kwapim Range there, for example, serves the forest and the mountains there, serve as factors in enhancing cloud formations. And so once there's a rainstorm there, because of these good conditions there already, clouds will do well and produce lots of rainfall. But if you come to coastal Ghana, it's a flat land. And so unless the storm is very strong to pull through, it will always end up raining in the eastern and the Volta regions. So it's not just the rainstorm that is approaching, but local conditions also play a role as to whether the rain will fall over your area or not. And then there are also changes that happen within the period. So that's some of the reasons why you probably did not get the rainfall over your area.
Thank you very much. And I want to know also the transition zone or transition belt.
Yes.
Where exactly is that transition belt? Because it seems to confuse me a bit.
Okay. So let me try and break the whole country down.
So Joshua, I think there's something we've written about that. For the purposes for the purpose of those who are, but I think there's a write-up we shared some time back.
Okay.
But I don't want us to spend much time because a lot of guys want to go and do it. But you can briefly, and I will take the next question from Mr. Tete.
Okay. So basically, the transition zone is the area that links the forest zone to the northern sector. So the 5 northern regions are all classified as the northern sector. But for areas between the Bono, Oti, linking to the northern and then Savannah regions, that is where we term as the transition zone, basically. And then from there, you move to the forest, that's the middle sector, Ashanti, Eastern Volta, and then you come to the coast.
Can I ask my question now?
Yes, please.
Okay. I live in Central Kofi, just after Hohoi.
Okay.
And then my community is sandwiching between 2 mountains. On the eastern part and then on the western part. That moves all along to Buem area. Then on the southern, the other side, the southern side, it moves all the way to towards Kwame Krum and those areas. Now, what we've been experiencing is in the morning, there will be a lot of rain clouds formation. You see the visibility is very blurred with mist. And then all of a sudden it will just diminish. Then, because we are farmers, for a month now, we've not seen rain. Then in the night, there'll be a lot of dew. And then in your forecast, I think 3 days ago, there was a forecast that there was a rainstorm that was moving at the northern part of Togo, to the northern side of the country. And then at least we were part of the line, okay. But we didn't see any rain. And with the explanation you gave concerning the conditionalities, but here is the case, we have very favorable conditions that at least could have altered the movement of the clouds for them to precipitate and then give us rain. But it doesn't happen. Any explanation to that?
Yes, there's actually an explanation to it. Well, let me start with the clouds you see in the morning. So most of the winds that we get into southern Ghana are southwesterlies. So they blow from the ocean into the inland areas. Because you are situated between 2 mountains, the wind will hit the mountain on your left. The southwesterlies will hit the mountains on your left. So the winds will rise and then they will form clouds just at the top of the mountains. So for you who are between the 2 mountains, you will see the clouds there very close to the surface, and so visibility will be very poor. That's what we call mist and then fog in the early hours of the morning. Now, once once sunshine starts setting in, these clouds that are at the low levels will start dissipating. So it will clear and then visibility will become okay. So it's the sunset that clears this misty and foggy conditions you see in the morning. Also, if there's strong winds coming, it will also clear it. So these are the conditions that will clear the clouds you see in the early hours of the morning. But for the rainstorm part, if you are sandwiched between two mountains and the rainstorm is approaching from the east and the winds blowing at the surface are also from the west, then it means areas that are to the west of the mountain on the left will be favored more than your area because the storm is approaching from the east, but the winds that are blowing at your area are favoring areas in the western side. And so they will rather benefit than you. In that instance, you become the leeward area, whilst areas to the west of the mountain become the windward area. So yes, their condition will be better than your condition. So it depends on where the wind is blowing from and where the storm is actually also coming from. So there are a whole lot of conditions. There are times that the winds will also favor you, and so you'll also get rainfall, and areas to the west of the mountain will not get the rainfall. So these are all local conditions that will affect rainstorm. So it's possible that a rainstorm will be approaching, but you will still not get the rains based on the regime of the wind at the time when the storm was approaching.
Okay, a follow-up.
Okay.
So here in our area, we are farmers. Is there any way that you can do in situ forecast for us? Maybe picking from your data or maybe the movement of clouds and the winds, maybe you can give a specific forecast. Because currently people have prepared the lands for planting of the minor season maize and then the rice. But we are still waiting. Those who tried earlier, fall armyworms disturbed because there were no rain, so they were depending on the water content of the maize to survive. So that is my last question for. Yeah.
We actually do point specific forecast, but because we have the whole country to deal with, that is only done on demand. And so for now, we are collaborating with Ministry of Food and Agriculture to do some specific forecasts for some farmers across the country, scattered across the country. So we do points for specific forecasts, but then this is only done on demand. So we can do it for your area, but unless you demand for it before. But for the farming part, this is the we call this time the little dry season. So around late July, sometimes even it starts quite early in July into August, we don't get so much rainfall for Southern Ghana because around this time, the sun will be moving more towards the Sahel area. And so the northern portions, especially the upper regions towards Burkina Faso, that is where the active storms will actually be tracking. So most of the rains now are in the northern parts of the West African continent and West Africa. And so unless they start receding towards the south, for us in Southern Ghana, we will not be getting so much rainfall. So if you want to start farming now, you probably want to consider irrigation because there's very little chance of us getting rainfall in Southern Ghana around this time. If it will rain, it will just be 1 or 2, at most 3 times within the month. It would most of the time have cloudy conditions for most parts of the day, and then some few sunny breaks. But rainfall that will be significant for crops will not be frequent around this time. Just some slight rain or drizzle for now.
Okay, so considering it means that I would rather want to draw the attention of all our farmers in this area who are watching that at least if we want to plant now, then we should try using crops that are drought resistant, at least for now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So if there's any other question too, you can take it.
Do you have anyone? I think their questions are done now.
Yeah.
Gaddafi, any question to ask Ivy? Francisca, welcome back to Ghana. Do you have any question to ask so that we end it here?
No, I don't have any question, but I think it's been exciting. Truth is, I haven't been paying attention to these things. When the data is forwarded onto the platform, I just forward it to my station's platform, and I didn't even know this is how you can read the weather. So for the first time, I think I'm understanding the colors I've been seeing and then the alphabet in it. I'm just being honest here. And I think if given the chance to explain somewhere, I should be able to explain the weather. To some limits, yeah. And I'm very good. Thank you.
Gaddafi, any I thing to say? And Ivy.
Well, for me, I think it has been an insightful moment to know more about our weather patterns and some of the signs that informs the outturns of rains in our country. So I think this would inform me moving on in my line of duty as a reporter, and also to even educate my neighborhood, because sometimes, as journalists, people usually would call on you to tell them as though you work with the meteorological department. And I think this moving forward has, personally, I've learned a lot today. But I think if we should have similar training subsequently, just to freshen up and also deepen other areas of the weather department of our nation, I think it will help us a lot.
All right, thank you very much, Gaddafi. Ivy, anything to add? Any of them to add? We are going to wrap up now. We have to close it now. And then, Joshua, if you can also think about what the issue of organizing another training.
It's not a problem at all. I'm always available.
If that would be possible in the coming weeks.
No problem. No problem.
All right, thank you so much for joining the training. We are so happy that not all but few of us were able to join, and we hope that we'll be able to organize another one in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for your time. I'll share the link